Hello, everybody. Wow. There are so many people here. That's great. So this is a great gathering today because I recognize people from all different places, and I don't recognize a lot of people. So that's all fantastic. I'm going to shut this door. Leave that open until we get more started. I promise you today there will be some misfunction with the audio, visual. Last night, I've had this like Indian wedding birthday. It's my 50th birthday yesterday, and I've had this like Indian wedding. It started on Wednesday night. My best friend drove up from Westchester, and we went out to dinner. I haven't drank since I'm 21, and we were at the hibachi table, and I thought he was pouring water into my mouth. So they were like squirting. I'm like, "You're tastes like water." And so I had some sake, but it has worn off. And then Thursday I went skiing with my son and hung out with a friend and turned into another dinner and comedy club. And then yesterday I thought that was it. I just worked and I had this, and then I had a business meeting. They invited people for dinner. We had another dinner. So this is like restful to come here. But this morning I woke up and I'm like, oh, I can add this to the talk and this to the talk, and brought all the equipment, and we'll see how it goes. So keep breathing. Keep breathing. Great. So we're going to start out with a quiz. Oh, I'm Steve Wechsler, by the way, for people who don't know me. How many times approximately do we breathe every minute? Yeah. About somewhere between 12 and 18 times per minute. Per minute. So we multiply that by 60 for the mathematicians in the room. How many is that? Huh? Yeah, it's a couple hundred, right? You start to breathe. So I'm 50 years old, and I breathe like lottery levels, right? Right? We start out. So I always like to start out by recognizing that, we're light, sound, and vibration. We're not this, solid material we all think we are, I always say, God doesn't make junk, we just treat it that way. But we're much more than that. We're really just this vibratory being, because we're affected by light. How many people we're like flowers, right? The sun came out today. People are like, oh my God, right? Doesn't 40 seem like 90, The comedian was saying that, when it hits 40 in Syracuse, people start wearing shorts. And sound, right? Our favorite song comes on the radio, immediately changes our mood, right? Not expecting it sometimes, or we change our mood sometimes by the music. But I can bet you that people in this room all like different kinds of music. Some people listen to how many people like classical music? Jazz, rock and roll, floaty type, relaxing music. Yeah. So everybody likes different music. Different music kind of tunes them in a different way. It brings us into a certain tone. And vibration, right? We hear a loud sound, right? Sound is just loud sound, the vibration. I remember I was in an earthquake one time, Vibration affects us. So this solid body is affected by different things. One of the most powerful things that most of us have been doing our whole lives, except for the people who are here, is breathing. Right? First thing we do in life is, right? That's the first thing we do, right? Right? And then what comes next? You breathe out, right, with sound, And it goes on like that, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, until, right, something falls on the floor, right, and you go what? Right? And that's the start of it all, right? It's the start of us reacting to life. And usually when we're young, things happen. You know, somebody yells, you get hurt, and we hold our breath. Right? You ever see a little kid do that? They're like, when they get really upset, they go, just waiting for, to explode out. And it happens because we could try it here. We could hold our breaths until we can't. No, we're not going to do that. But we can't live without what? We can live without water for how many days? 4 or 5. There's probably instances that are more. We can live without food for 5 minutes. How long? Live without food? 3-4 weeks. Yeah. Air? Matter of minutes, and you're pretty stupid after 5 or 6 of them. Unless you can train yourself to do that. So all our lives we're breathing in and we're breathing out, though we pay very little attention to it. Right? But kids get excited, and how would a kid breathe when they're excited? Or an adult? Yeah, they tend to breathe fast. And what if we get upset or depressed? We tend to breathe slow and low. I mean, you know this, right? But we pay so little attention to it. So we're going to do some breathing today. I'm going to do I brought a teacher with me on a video. So I'm not going to teach alone. And my friend Susan is going to come and teach also. So we're going to add this all together. And as I said, hope it works out. We're going to listen to some music. And towards the end, if the music shows up, we're going to have some live music too, because part of breathing, right, is singing, right? Is talking, is, having emotion. It's all connected with our breath. So, my life started 50 years ago. I took my first in-breath. And the last slide's going to say out-breath. Because that's how our life ends, right? Our lives are all going to... I used to have this great book I used to read to my son called Everybody Pees. Right? Talks about animals pee and birds pee. But everything breathes. Animals, plants, fish, birds. Everything breathes. And everything breathes at a different rhythm based on what their needs are. So when our rhythm changes, we breathe differently by the way we feel. But there's a possibility, and here's the hypothesis, right? What if we can change our breath? I'm going to finish the line. And change how we feel. And that's the magic of it. So I'm going to go through a number of teachers in my life. And we're going to do some breath work in between. So if someone would, there are tissues right there, 3 boxes. If someone would start passing them out, because I promise you the person in front of you will appreciate that you use the tissue before we do some of the breath. If you know what I mean. Go sweet. So breathing is automatic. But it's also something we can control. This means that the body governs it, but we can change how we breathe through conscious breathing. And this is known as prana, which is like this life force energy, pranayama, the movement of life force. It's not only air, we breathe atoms. They say, I think it was Deepak Chopra once said that, we are made up of all these atoms. When we breathe out something like 1 trillion atoms. And the rest of us, at one time or another, have breathed in and out the atoms of everybody in the world. So it's something we share. We're constantly sharing information and material with everybody in the world as long as we breathe. And we have these beautiful breathing apparatuses that are basically just sacs. And the way we control them is with our nervous system, with our muscular system. We move blood through them, our circulatory system. The bloods, it's really intricate. When we breathe in something that's toxic, our body immediately tries to close off. It's a lot of times why people get headaches. Something they breathe, the body closes it off. Something they eat, the body tries to close things off before it gets to where? The brain, the big computer that we have in our heads. So it's really important to be able to control, to exercise this system. One of our lungs has 3 lobes in it, and one of them has 2. Anyone know which one has 2? The left lung, and the right one has 3. So they work differently. They don't necessarily work independently. They work together. But you can have one lobe removed, and our lungs still function. You know, we're always given good extra parts, the important ones. So the first thing I did with breathing, does everyone know who these guys are? Do you know the Beatles? My friend Mark Cassell brought in these 2 posters today for me of the first Beatle concerts, like in the U.S., which was right around my birthday, so when I was born. So this is their teacher, you know, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And the first thing I did in my life that kind of brought me on this path of breathing was transcendental meditation. I was sat down, given a simple mantra, which is just sounds that are said over and over again to get the mind focused. And then they taught some simple breathing techniques, because meditation and breath work very closely together. It's a great way to calm the body. It's a great way to still the mind. So let's do this. People have room. Why don't you put everything aside, and we're just going to just feel how we're breathing. And you won't miss a thing because it's being videotaped, and you can listen on the internet for the rest of your life. It's amazing. Some of the videos I've done here have 5,000 views. So this information really gets out there. So I just want everyone to just sit and do absolutely nothing. No special posture, right? You don't have to breathe. But I want you to just start to pay attention to your breathing a little bit. A lot of people go, oh, it stopped. But notice when you breathe in. And just notice when you breathe out. Don't control it at all. You've been doing this your whole life. Have you ever really taken time to just pay attention to your breathing? Amazing how quiet it gets, how the energy changes. Again, really focus on just your breath coming in and out, whether in through your nose or in through your mouth, out through your nose, out through your mouth. If you're comfortable, even close your eyes. Pay more attention to that breathing. And just open your eyes. And the whole energy changes in the room. It's like everything gets quiet. It's a beautiful, simple way to start your day, is to just be aware. Nothing to do. We didn't do any special technique. We didn't do really anything. What do they say? Enlightenment is the art of doing nothing. you know, stillness. But when we pay attention to the breath, we're paying attention to something that automatically happens. We can tell a lot. Is our breath fast? Is our breath slow? Is it shallow? Is it deep? It has all these different experiences in it. So I grew up a stutterer. I literally could not talk in front of one other person without stuttering. I would feel tension on a word, and immediately my whole body would seize up. I was around 5 years old, and it was really the first time that breath noticeably stopped in my life. Word would come out, I'd get tight, and the muscles would get tight, my nervous system would get tight, I'd freak out. I totally avoided speaking to people. Different than I am now. And I had a wonderful second grade teacher who made me sit with other kids and talk to them during lunch. They really liked that. And then as I grew up, I avoided every oral Spanish test and every thing I really had to do to speak until my bar mitzvah, which I couldn't avoid. I had to speak. And I told the cantor, the person who sings at the Jewish ceremonies, about my stuttering. And he says, you know, you don't stutter when you sing. Do you believe I was 12 years old and I never knew that? You know? So it's something you learn. Like, why is that different? So that's why today we're going to do a little bit of singing together. Because it really frees up the body-mind. And I actually sang the whole thing. I didn't have to speak once. He was great. He's a really good guy. But it didn't help my stuttering at all. So I went through college, avoiding every class that was publicly speaking. It was interesting. I just read the biography of Dale Carnegie, who wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People. And his whole life was about that, was teaching people how to public speak. Because it's the most terrifying, especially if you can't do it, if something's stopping you. So I went through college. I went partway, just a little bit, for chiropractic school, and I met this man, Tony Robbins. Anybody heard of him? Yeah. My brother sent me to the Firewalk seminar, and I walked on 12 feet of 2,000-degree cold. Great bar story. Didn't change my stuttering at all. But I took the rest of the course. I learned about, the last day of the course was called Living Health. And that really changed, really knowing how disease happens in the body. It was amazing, the depth of knowledge. And he talked a lot about breath. So let's do this. Again, put everything aside. We're going to do a little breathing together. We're going to do some breathing with some counting now. So I'm going to have you breathe in for 4 beats. And I'm going to have you hold for 2 beats. And then I'm going to have you breathe out for 4 beats. All right? I'm going to start counting a little faster. And some people will not be able to keep up, and that's okay. Breathe 3 in. Hold for 1 or 2. Breathe 3 out. It's all individualized. But just another experience. So, again, if people are comfortable, they can close their eyes. It makes you pay attention to your breath a little more. So we're going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and hold. Just feel how that feels. And then breathe out, 2, 3, 4, and hold at the bottom. And breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and hold at the top. And breathe out, 2, 3, 4, and hold at the bottom. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and hold at the top. And breathe out, 2, 3, 4, and hold at the bottom. Breathe in and hold. Breathe out. And hold. Breathe in. And hold. And breathe out. And hold and relax and breathe normally. So Tony Robbins said that communication was one of the most important things in life. My favorite line from him is, your only limitations are your expectations. 2 days of the seminar, Friday night was the Firewalk, Monday was the Living Health. In between, he actually gave you these techniques of neurolinguistics programming to really help you change the meaning of the experiences that we had in our lives by taking them and expanding them, taking them and contracting them, taking them and just watching them over, watching them backwards. It would take me hours to explain the different techniques, but it's a very powerful thing. He wrote 2 books, one called Unlimited Power, which really is the whole thing. If you ever have a chance to read that book or listen to the CDs that he has, it really changed my life. It brought me from a very scared, shallow, slothy person to a person of action, a person who was willing to move beyond the fear that I made up about life and to really move in strongly to it. And actually, as a privilege, I went to a course about a month after I did my first Firewalk, and I did that whole weekend. And I took 6 of my friends there to Detroit. I was in Davenport, Iowa. I went to Detroit because I got to go for free if I brought 6 friends. So I brought 6 friends, and I went once already, so I was an expert at it. And I started to talk with some of the staff. And during the break, this woman walked up to me and said, I heard you were a chiropractor. And before I could say, just a chiropractic student, she goes, my husband is really ill, and he could really use an adjustment. And I'm like, who's your husband? And she points up on stage. And something inside me said, sure. Here we are learning to act as if, right? Act as if you can do something. And I said, sure. And the funny thing is I was supposed to fly there, but the flight got canceled. So I took my car, which had my brand new chiropractic table in it, never used. So they said, okay, after the Firewalk, meet us up in this room in Cobo Hall in Detroit, and Tony will come in. I'm like, okay. So being scared for the rest of the day was kind of mild, but we were doing all these techniques to break out of that fear. It was such a powerful experience. And I got my table out of the car and had to put it together. I didn't realize it came in pieces. And I put it together and I set it up in Cobo Hall, and Tony walks in with 35 people. And, if anyone ever seen Tony Robbins, he's about this big and about that wide. And this was almost 30 years ago. And it was really funny. So he lays down on the table, and people are like rubbing his feet and working his aura and doing all this stuff, and I am standing against the wall. And Tony goes, where's the chiropractor? I told you I wanted a chiropractor. He's like yelling. And I'm like, oh my God, So I said, well, I'm right here. I'm waiting until everyone finishes up, and I'll work on you. And he goes, everyone move away. And I ended up, he laid down on the table. It was my second quarter in chiropractic school. But I was in a fraternity, and we had a lot of alumni teach us what to do. And what was great is Tony probably has been adjusted 10,000 times before I adjusted him. So his body knew what to do. And I just kind of worked my way up, boom, 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 boom. And then he flips over and he goes, okay, do my neck. And I never, ever in my life adjusted someone in that position. I didn't learn that yet. I learned how to adjust people sitting up. So I said, I felt his neck, and I go, I'm going to do this sitting up. And he sits up, and his head is like over here. And I'm like, so I had to get up on the table and adjust his neck. And he gets up, and he gives me this huge hug, and he says, that was the best adjustment I ever had. So I adjusted 35 more people that night. which was more people than I have ever adjusted, period, in my... So that was a great story. Just don't tell anyone of authority that. I have a license yet. And he actually flew me from city to city in the Midwest to meet him at these events. So I got to do 18 of these events, fire walks and stuff. But if you have things you really want to change in life, it's a very powerful technology. And you can literally do it with yourself or find a coach that uses this. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's like one of the things I've learned in my life is I've had all these great experiences all over the world, and my goal was always to bring them back. And so this is kind of like, I want to share with you some really powerful technologies that you might never, and something that I don't offer myself. It's not something I do in my practice, but it's something you can ingrain within yourself to break free and to start to breathe in your life. So just to go a year forward, I was at his house in Del Mar, California, doing this seminar called Date with Destiny, and you had to write down all your fears and all your things, and I wrote down about my stuttering, and they were doing this trance induction. Tony Robbins was talking about flying in a jet plane. This guy, Michael Hadley, was talking about flying in a crop duster, and Michael Hadley came over and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you know, Steve, everybody screws up on a word. You just hang on to it." And I've never stuttered since. So there are things in your life, though when people saw the King's Speech, do you know I had to hold someone's hand through the whole thing? That's how you feel. It is. I went from this life of being in total fear of speaking. And it turned out the next week I spoke in front of 500 people. It was just a coincidence that it happened that way. But just know if you have something that is really terrifying you in your life that you need to step through, there are ways to do it, you know. And I, luckily, fortunately, get to share that with you of something that I bumped into. So Tony said that communication is the key to life. He said communication is the response that you get. He said that words are the smallest part of communication. They're somewhere around 8% of communication. The bigger part after that, I'm making up these numbers, it's a bigger part, it's like 30-something%, is tonality. Like how we say it. Like if someone walks up and goes, "I love you!" You know, it might not have the same thing as "I love you," you know? It's the tonality, the way we say it. But physiology is the biggest thing. It's how we move. And part of how we move is how we breathe. They even make these new eye watches and things like that. They have technology that actually monitors your breathing, monitors your pump of your blood in your body but that's why our breathing, Tony says, and Deepak says, and Andrew Weil says, and other people that I'll speak about today, and Susan will speak about, breathing is the quickest way to change our physiology. So we're going to do a little breath here, and again, technology. We're going to see how this works. That was the play button I hit. Yeah.
Be enlightened.
Okay.
As I can now, they will go to the second important. Now.
Come on.
This is salutation to my guru, my teacher, my mentor.
So this is Dr. Vasant Lad. Can people hear?
He taught me some technique of meditation and some package of 7 pranayama.
He's just sitting there. Don't worry.
My guru's name is Hamir Baba. Very loving, compassionate. He was a very simple man. He was a farmer, but he was highly enlightened. As I came to United States and traveling different parts of the world and sharing with the people about healing art of Ayurveda through Panchakarma, through herbology, through Marma Chikitsa, and through Mudra, and by pranayama. So students requested me, Dr. Lad, why don't you share with us that pranayama? And it is the demand of the student. It is the request of the student that I would like to share with you whatever my Guru Maharaj taught me this package of 7 types of pranayama. Namaste. So first pranayama is Bhasrika, bellow breath. Bhasrika is very powerful pranayama. We have to inhale with the both nostril into the chest. Chest should expand, but exhale out, controlled breath, like a patient of asthma. Because in Bhasrika, you have to empty the lungs. So I will just show you.
So just watch and then we'll do it together.
Then after 20 Bhasrika, I will take rest for a minute or two. And then again I will show you another round of 20 Bhasrika. So let us start. Are you going to do with me? Okay, let us go. So do this Jnana Mudra, thumb is touching the index finger. This Jnana Mudra is very important. When thumb is touching the index finger, thumb is ether, index finger is air, middle finger fire, ring finger is water, and pinky is earth. So ether, air, fire, water, earth. When air finger touches the ether finger, it dilates the bronchi, and that is why this is very important to increase the vital capacity of the lungs. It improves concentration. This is called Chin Mudra or Jnana Mudra, and by doing Jnana Mudra while doing Bhasrika, it will do bronchodilation.
So just watch.
And diminished capacity of exhaling the alveoli will go away. Your alveoli will exhale the air out and they can carry oxygen. So oxygen carrying capacity of the red blood cell will increase. So let us do Bhasrika with this mudra.
Just watch.
So when I exhale tightly, belly goes in.
So he's an expert at this. Don't worry, we're not going to do it that intensely. So we always say the first sound of pranayama is the sound of people blowing their nose. So if people's noses are congested or anything, you might want to blow them just so to prevent things from coming out on the person in front of you. So we can all blow our nose together. Get ready. People in the front row are fine. It's only me. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to breathe in, and when we exhale, we're going to pull the diaphragm in. We're going to empty our lungs. But we're going to breathe in through the nose. So let's just do that part. Let's breathe in and just breathe out normally. Breathe in and out the mouth normally. The difference with this is we're going to breathe in and then breathe out forcefully. Now, again, if you don't feel up to this, no one's going to be going, oh, they're not doing their breathing. Do it easier. Do it lighter, you know? My friend John, whose father lived to 90-something, right? John's dad started doing this in his, 80s and became energized into his 90s. So it's a very powerful thing to do. You're breathing in deeply, and then you're letting out fully, pushing out the breath, and then bringing the breath back in. So we're going to do this together. I'm going to lift my arms to say breathe in, and then move my arms this way. So we're going to do it with our eyes open. We'll do 10, and people will be surprised they can do 10. We're not going to do 20. And then we're going to do 10 more. Okay? So everyone just relax, put everything aside, watch the video when it comes out. So again, we're going to use the nose, and if your nose is really stuffed up, then use your mouth. get a little dry that way, though. Okay, you ready? Everyone breathe in and out. Breathe in, breathe 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 out. Two more. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And just relax. Close your eyes and just see how you feel. Some people might feel a little lightheaded. Some people might feel a little warm. Look at that. Coats are coming off. You know? If we're not used to breathing with this intensity, woo, the body goes, woo, like hot flash. Man, this is a hot flash, you know? You know, it warms up the body. Pranayama increases fire in the body. How many people need a little more fire in the winter here, right? You know? There are great masters of breath that can heat their body up in the coldest atmosphere. It's a temperature where they start to sweat in the middle of winter. So this time we're going to add a little arm motion to it. So make sure you got enough room around you here. We're going to breathe in, just watch, and we're going to breathe out just like that. Okay? Breathe in through the mouth, and breathe out through the nose. In through the nose, out through the nose. If you can't, use your mouth. So we're going to do 10 of these using our arms. Okay? Ready, everyone? Take a regular breath in and a regular breath out. And together, breathe in. One more, and out, and relax. Just close your eyes. See how you feel. And open your eyes. That was a little more energizing than the first breath we did, right? Do people feel like, wow, like clearer, right? It's amazing. You do these on a regular basis. It clears your mind, you know? Right? Most people wake up, the first sound they hear, and their whole day goes like that, right? But sometimes we wake up and we're tired, we can't go to bed, you know? The greatest thing you can do is you go to the bathroom, wash your face a little bit, and then do some breathing. Get the body breathing, you know? That's why a lot of people exercise in the morning. But, you know, this is physical exercise. Dr. Ladd talks about that in this video, that this is physiological exercise. I had a patient of mine who fell, and he was a runner, broke his arm. And he used running to get over his anxiety. And we taught him how to breathe. And he was like, wow. Now he runs for enjoyment. And he breathes separately for his anxiety to keep his mind clear. So next teacher I had, a man named Donald Epstein, Jewish guy from Brooklyn, you know, and we were a bunch of young teachers around him. And see if I can. So there's me, 25 years ago, with the beard. There's me there. I was like the only one looking at the camera, too. It's funny. Like that picture was taken for this. So Donald Epstein developed something called network chiropractic. He opened me up to energy. Like there's more to this world than just suffering in this physical body. He really made it so palpable to us. And he developed something. He wrote a book called The 12 Stages of Healing and developed something called somato-respiratory integration. How to breathe. So we're going to do some of that together today. So we're going to take our hands and we're going to be touching our body in these three places: belly, solar plexus, and chest. So put everything aside. We need our hands for this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put our hands on our bellies. I'm finding mine easier these days. And let's just breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. A little different breath. In through the nose and out through the mouth. And in through the nose and out through the mouth. Does anyone notice something happening with your hands? What do? They move, right? They go in and out. So really breathe into your hands, in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And let's go up one to our solar plexus. 3 breaths here. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And once more, in through your nose and out through your mouth. And up one to your chest here. In through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through your mouth. And last time, in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just put your hands down to the side. And what we're going to do next, we're going to breathe those 3 areas again. And I want you to find your sweet spot. What causes you the most ease in your body? Which feels better, here or here or here? Let's try it. Let's breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth and your belly 3 times. In and out. And in and out. And in and out. And then up a little higher, solar plexus, 3 breaths, in through your nose, out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. In through your nose, and out through your mouth. And up to the chest. In through the nose, and out through the mouth. In through the nose, and out through the mouth. And last time, in through the nose, and out through the mouth. And hands just relax. This might bring up, for some people, some emotion too. Certain, you touch your body and you breathe, you're making this loop, this connection. People might go, oh, this feels really nice. Other people might say, oh, this makes me a little sad. Other people, different things come up, and it's all okay. Nothing is wrong. We're a safe place here. So how many people felt their belly was their sweet spot? That really caused them to relax. And how about solar plexus? Yeah, different group of people. How about the chest for some people? Yeah, that was like almost even. The 3 different areas. When you get stressed out, it's important to know what calms you down. Like when some people get stressed, they go like this. Or they go like this. Or they go like this. It's an automatic thing. I'm saying, well, if we know that this calms us down, let's use it. So everyone go to their sweet spot. And close our eyes. Let's do 9 breaths through here. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. In through your nose. And out through your mouth. In through your nose. And out through your mouth. In through your nose. And out through your mouth. In through your nose. And out through your mouth. In through your nose. And on the next breath, I want you to move to an area that was a little stuck, maybe the belly for you or the solar plexus or the chest. And now breathe in that area. bring that peace from that other area to this area. If it still feels stuck, go back to your place of peace. Take a breath or two there. So what we're doing is we're kind of spreading the love, bringing peace to different areas of tension in your body. If we were actually doing this work, we would breathe into our area of peace and then bring it to the shoulder or the hip or the knee. Breath can be moved and used throughout the body for your own healing. So again, there's a sheet on your chair that has all the websites to all these people, so you can look into it. There are, again, ways to do this on your own, and there's experts to lead you through this breathing. So the book's called The 12 Stages of Healing. It's a wonderful book written a long time ago. He's a real genius. He grew up like they thought he was retarded. Like he did terrible in school. He had trouble processing things until they realized he was just a genius. And he saw things that we haven't trained ourselves yet to see, but he was kind of open that way, Maybe that's what all these kids that are different, maybe they just experience life differently than we do. And instead of us trying to stick them in our box, maybe we can learn some other ways to see things in the world, not just this let's tap the cake, this physicalness as far as that. So then I went to India. I went to India in 1990. And again, I went to this place called an ashram, place of peace, place called Prashanti Nilayam, means the abode of peace. And I met Jews, Christians, Muslims, Sikhs, Jains, Zoroastrians. Everybody came there because it was about being peaceful. It wasn't about being right. I actually said that to someone the other day, and we were just learning this in a class that I'll speak about later. Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? Would you rather be right or would you rather be healthy? We so want to just be right, like we got all the answers. Sometimes it doesn't work. So it was the first time I was really opened up to kind of a new world. We sang together. We did this whole course called Education in Human Values because everybody wanted the world to be a better place for their kids. That was the most universal thing of anyone there. We all wanted the world to be a better place for our kids. Not necessarily for us, even our generation, but for the next generation to pass it on. So people got together from all over the world, created all these projects and education projects and service projects. And there were close to 2 million people there, 2.2 million people by the time I left. More than a quarter of the 2.2 million people were helping the other people make it a better experience being there. Everyone shared everything. Everybody helped out. It was all volunteers. It cost less than $1 a day to stay and eat there. And everybody got fed. Everyone had medical care. It's an amazing experience to be around. But monks, in robes and nuns in habits and people in all different Buddhist dress. And so the amazing thing, I was brought up Jewish, and I was walking along and I heard these Jewish prayers. These people were having a little Friday night service. And within, I think it was about a half hour, we had 180 people. We're all singing prayers together in Hebrew, but we realized we couldn't speak to each other because we all spoke different languages. Well, really powerful. So that was my powerful experience of peace coming together. And Sai Baba had a very simple meditation. And we're not going to do it here because it's a candle meditation. But again, I left a website there, and you can look up this candle meditation, where you just light a candle and you just stare at the candle till your eyes start to water. It's an ancient technique. And then you just close your eyes and bring the light into you. It's just a beautiful thing. When we start giving up how right we are and how this is the only way, you can see beauty in all different ways of life and how similar beliefs are. They're not really different. Very similar are people around the world. We just look different, and we speak different languages and, pray in different ways. Then I met this guy, Deepak Chopra. How many people know him? So I did a talk early on. A patient of mine, this woman, Lori Attridge, some people might know her, great person. She came in and she introduced me to this book called Perfect Health. It was all about Ayurveda, something I practice in my practice. And, you know, I was like, oh, something new, blah, blah, blah. And I read this book, Perfect Health, and I was like, wow, this explains everything. This explains why some diets work for these people and not for these people, and why certain techniques. It shows how individually unique we all are. And in this book, Perfect Health, it goes through some very nice, simple breathing techniques. That's why I introduced. But he really got me on the path of really looking into why things worked individually for people, and really started me on a path of taking better care of myself uniquely for myself. One of the things that impacted me the biggest is how he just really looked at the world in, again, a different way, a way of, he used to say, one of my favorite lines, he would go, this is my, I'll do my accent for you. I did it for him. It was very funny. He goes, this is my 2014 model. Meaning that we constantly, so I've interviewed him on the radio a few times. I introduced him when he came and spoke here in Syracuse. And I spent some time with him in Seattle. I picked him up from the airport and drove him around. So I thought I'd joke with him one day. So there's this very funny movie. It's called The Love Guru. It's one of my favorite movies. It's a whole spoof on all of this kind of work in Ayurveda. And there's an actress called Mariska Hargitay, and they use that as the greeting. They walk around to each other and go, ah, Mariska Hargitay. And when I saw Deepak, I said that to him. I don't know. A friend. I was just on the phone with a friend of mine, and he always says that to me. So I said, oh, my friend just called, and he said, Mariska Hargitay. And Deepak goes, that was such a silly movie. He goes, I couldn't even watch the whole thing, but he's in it. He's in that movie. It was a very, very funny movie. But a very powerful way of looking at our body, that our body constantly changes over. We're made up of atoms, and probably Eve's too, but atoms, and they're constantly changing. He said our skin changes over about every 5 days. Our stomach lining changes sometimes within minutes, depending on the hotness, spiciness of the food we eat. Our heart and lungs change over about every 7 months. Our nervous system about every year. Our brain, our spinal cord every 1 to 2 years. Even the bones in our body, fully, the atoms change over. And they've done this scientifically. So why do we keep repeating disease, repeating problems? He said the biggest problem is that we have 26,000 thoughts a day. And the only problem with that is we had the same 24,000 of them yesterday too. Is we keep repeating the same patterns. That's why if we take on something different, like breathing a different way, if we're feeling sad, maybe Susan will talk about this a little bit when she comes up. There are different ways to breathe, to be happy, People breathe a certain way when they're happy. Tony Robbins used to always talk about that success leaves clues. There are other people who have been successful in the world. We can read about them. There's all these books. There's all these cassettes and tapes and YouTubes. We call it modeling. So you can model a certain breath to bring more life in the body. So let's do that. Let's do another breath. We'll get Dr. Lad back up here.
Now, we will go to the second important pranayama called Kapalabhati. Kapala means forehead. Bha means glowing. So it is a glowing skull. It will glow your skull, means it will improve cellular intelligence, and Kapalabhati is very important technique. Now in Bhastrika, we were breathing into the chest. In Kapalabhati, we are breathing into the belly. Belly is moving to and fro. More emphasis is given on exhaling air, throwing the air out. Inhalation happens automatically. Now let us do that. This is called Kapalabhati. The belly is moving to and fro like this.
So just watch.
You got it? Exhalation forcibly, inhalation passively. Now, let us do 100 Kapalabhati. It takes only 1 minute for 100 Kapalabhati.
So just watch. Just watch and then we'll do it together.
Are you ready?
Just watch. See, it's not hard. Don't get scared. It's like a choo-choo train. So we're going to be the little engines that could here. So again, we're going to use the nose, and we're going to use this wonderful muscle that really controls the lungs called the diaphragm. We're going to just pull in the diaphragm. And I'm not breathing in again. It happens automatically, like he says. It's just a very slight. So put everything aside. And some people, it might be helpful just to put their hands on their diaphragm. Right below the ribs, there's a muscle called the diaphragm. And again, it's a muscle. What do we do with muscles? We either don't use them and they become useless, or we use them and they become useful for us. So let's do 20 of these to start. So put your hands, maybe that will help. Let's try it just a few times together. Okay, now close your eyes, and I'll count off to 20. Let's start together. And relax, close your eyes, put your hands down. So, slightly heating, a little less of that clarity from the, it's a different breath, working different parts of the body. Let's close our eyes, let's do another 20. Together. And relax. Kapalabhati, as he said, shining skull, brings. So again, you can get up in the morning and you can work your way up. He talks about it a little later in the DVD. You can work your way up to this. You start out with 20. Do another 20. Try that for a week. Work your way up to 60, 20, 20, and 20. Then work your way up to doing 40 and 20. So just keep adding to this. It's not dangerous. No, you never heard anyone dying of breathing, right? You know? Well, we die of stopping breathing, right? You know? It's very scary. You know, they say, losing your eyesight is such an incredible, terrible thing, We don't know what. But breathing, we don't even notice when our breathing starts to really bother. We notice when we have an asthma attack, right? We notice our heart when we have a heart attack. Why wait? If we can pay attention to some of the breathing now to increase our life force, to increase our quality of our life. We don't know the quantity. No one knows when their last breath is going to be. So take advantage of being alive while we're still here. Let's see who else is here. So I'm going to have Susan come up and talk about, so in India in 93, I had someone give me a reading. They read these ancient leaves that were written on 5,000 years ago. And you called for an appointment, and they say you're destined to have that appointment. So I called, and they said, we're all booked up. They said, but call again tomorrow. So I called tomorrow. We're all booked up. Call again tomorrow. This went on for about a week and a half. Call again tomorrow. So a week and a half later, I called, And they said, call again. 1 second, sir. Can you come right now? And I said, sure. And I'm walking to go, and I bumped into my friend from Australia. And I said, how are you? I said, you're okay? He goes, oh, my father just passed away, and I have to fly him to Australia. I just had to cancel my reading. And that was my reading. And I went in, and they literally, the first part of the reading, I'd say the first half hour, they told me about my life till my age that I was. I was like close to 30, somewhere in there. Maybe I was just about 30. And it was so like exact. I mean, I just walked in, and the guy looked through, and he pulled this card out, and he just starts reading it. He goes, you moved out of your childhood home here, you studied this, you had this kind of teacher. One of my teachers, Donald Epstein, he goes, you had an American teacher who taught you how to work with your hands, like chiropractic teacher. And then he said, which was in the future, he said, in 1996, you'll meet a teacher from India or China who will teach you pranayama, breathing, and meditation. And, of course, I took this thing and I put it away and never looked at it again, saved it. And in 1996, literally by accident, I ended up in Montreal to meet Sri Sri Ravi Shankar and a group called Art of Living. And I'll have Susan talk a bit about it because there's going to be a seminar coming up within a week. Yeah, it starts on Thursday. So why don't you take the stage. Susan Watts. No, not the musician. You probably get that.
Oh, sure. Hi, everybody. Is it? Hello? Hello? Okay. All right. All right, so as Steve said, I'm Susan Watts, and I'm from the Art of Living Foundation. The Art of Living is across the globe in 152 countries, and I'm the Syracuse representative. I'm going to be handing out flyers of a course that's starting on Thursday of this week. It goes Thursday through Monday. And Steve asked me to do something experiential with you, to give you an experience of what the power of the breath is. And so I'm going to provide you with a little bit of something that will show you how you can come to a place of total relaxation using the breath in this little seminar, and give you a flavor of what the course is all about. But before I get started, I want to just ask a question of you. I'll keep my talking to a minimum, but I want to just bring the context in of what the course is all about and what the breathing is all about. And the question is, so let me start off with, we take care of so many things in our lives. We service everything, right? Our houses, our cars. We take care of our bodies. We take care of our lawn, our children, all of the people in our lives. And yet, what is the one thing that we don't service or take care of? Any thoughts? Ourselves, right. Ourself. And what is the self? Is the self our body? Our body and mind? What else is our self? Our heart, our soul. Right. So our self is really made up of many different levels of existence. We have the body, the breath, the mind, the ego, the intellect, the memory, and the self. Right? And the self is that unchanging part of ourselves that brings us to a place of peacefulness and bliss. And yet, we have the mind that gets in the way, right? The mind is out there, and the mind is, instead of us controlling the mind controls us. So we have these different activities that happen, and what happens, the mind is like, you can think of it like a kite in the sky, and it gets hit with something, and it's all the way over to the left, right? And then it's all the way over to the right. And how do we get our grasp on that mind so that we can be in the place of peacefulness that is really our natural state, right? That state that Steve talked about, that we come into this world with before we stop taking that breath. So how do we bring ourselves to that place? So I'm going to be talking about the link between the body, the breath, the mind, and the emotions. Just really quickly, Steve was talking about how the emotions have a link to the mind, right? So we have an emotion and the mind goes all over the place. And there is also a link between the emotions and the breath. So if I have a really wonderful experience and I see a baby, you know, right, a sweet baby that's just been born, my breathing is going to be, you know, so long and drawn out, and wow, such sweetness. But what happens if someone cuts us off in the middle of the road, right? Our breathing is totally different.
Our hand goes up.
Yeah. So I'm going to be teaching you the Ujjayi breath. And Ujjayi means, it's the victory breath. Uj is breath and Jai is victory. And so what is Ujjayi breath? It is victory over the mind, right? Being able to have that state of calmness and peacefulness. And so let's start by, I'll give an explanation of it, and then if you wouldn't mind demoing with me so that people can hear. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Share how you got into this.
Okay, all right, yeah. I have a really interesting story that Steve knows very well. I actually found out about the Art of Living from someone who came to me with a flyer at a time when I had a lot of enormous amount of stress in my life. I had had a serious injury. I had a broken neck and a spinal cord injury and a lot of pain that went with it. And so someone came to me at that point in time and said, here's a flyer for something that is using the breath that I thought you might be able to benefit from because it eliminates the you know, stress in the body. And I said, this is exactly what I need. And so I was at a place where I had been being treated for a lot of nerve pain for quite a while. And I went to the course, and during Sudarshan Kriya, which is the foundation breath work of this course, really I had an enormous transformation that happened. And the doctors really were at the point where they were saying, we can't do anything more for you. And in the breath work, I found healing. This was my healing. And when I finished this course, I said I will teach this someday, because there is so much power in this breath that it can't be denied. So I am here today as someone that has had an enormous healing experience through the breath, and here to share what I know, a little taste of what I know with you, so that you can have a flavor of it as well. So, so the Ujjayi breath is a foundation of a lot of the different breathing that you would do in the breath work. And the way that you can think of Ujjayi is if you have a mirror that you want to steam, or your glasses that you want to steam up, and you take that breath, right? So if we can just all do that. Right. So that's exactly the sound. The other way that you can think of it is the sound when you are just about ready to fall asleep but not quite there yet. And the breathing starts to get a little bit louder. And so, Steve...
The sound you hear when someone else is keeping you up.
Here, actually, yeah. So if we can... You want to just do it together? Okay.
So it's kind of like... what I always say is you can hear it, and especially with your mouth open, like... But if you do it with your mouth open, your mouth gets very dry very fast. So we do it with the mouth closed through the nose. So it's... I mean, I do one breath and I just go... And you'll find that after you practice this a while, immediate response in the body.
And so why don't we... let's all just with the eyes open, and then we're gonna close the eyes, and I'm going to take you into a little bit of a meditation, a short little meditation that will give you the experience of using the breath to experience the self, right? So let's all do the Ujjayi breath together. And let's start by taking just to get us all together, let's take a normal deep breath in and breathe out. And now with the mouth closed and using Ujjayi breath, let's take a long deep breath in and breathe out. And in. And you can gently close the eyes if you feel comfortable doing that. And I'm going to do it with the count that Steve was using a little while ago. So let's, using Ujjayi breath, we'll take a deep breath in, breathe in, 2, 3, 4. And then hold and breathe out. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold and breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. And just continue doing the Ujjayi breath, keeping the eyes closed, doing it at a count that's comfortable for you. You can sit with your palms facing up on the lap. Just keep the eyes closed and breathe using Ujjayi breath. Notice what's happening in the body, what's happening in the mind, what's happening in the breath. Just take the attention within, taking a long, deep breath, using Ujjayi. Breathing through the nose. Now you can just let the breath return to normal. Keep the eyes closed. Keeping the eyes closed. Just sit comfortably and easily. Take a long, deep breath in. And breathe out. Get a long, deep breath in. And breathe out. And let's just listen to the noises that are around you. Become aware of the noises around you. Person moving next to you. The sound of the breath. Accept all the noises around you and be in harmony with them. Take a long, deep breath in and breathe out. Become aware of the body. The body is a beautiful gift given to you from nature. Honor and respect the body. Become aware of your feet. Your legs, abdomen, stomach, chest, your arms, your face, and the head. Become aware of the whole body. Take a long, deep breath in and breathe out. Become aware of your thoughts. Whether good thoughts or bad thoughts, let them be. Now you are in harmony with your thoughts. Take a long, deep breath in and breathe out. You are peace and joy. Become aware of the sensations in your body, your environment. Take a long, deep breath in. And let go. Gently and easily, you can open the eyes.
A little music, self-breathing.
to push, no need to try, no need to worry, question why. Surrender, let go,
I was afraid to touch the volume button. It worked.
How was it? Anyone want to share? Peaceful. Sure.
So we just connected with it and boom. That's transformation. Happens instantaneously. Just takes to be aware.
Effortless, exactly, yeah. It is, yeah.
So yeah, her name is Drucker. I'll tell you after. I'll make sure. I was going to write it on the sheet where it's got. So this course. So I, as I said, bumped into this course by my good fortune, and we brought many courses here to Syracuse. Probably 300 people have taken this course over probably about 10 years. We've taught this course in the Justice Center, in the prison, and millions of people have taken this course around the world. And it's just really fortunate that we have it here. Susan's going to explain, and there's some flyers for you about the details of it.
So I just want to say that this is really just a tiny, tiny glimpse into the power of the course and into the breath work. Really, there is such a deep and mysterious world that lives in the power of that breath that we have never thought to tap into, right? And the breath is just one part of the self that brings us to that place of calmness and peacefulness that It's like the kite string. If you think of the mind being the kite up there and then the breath being the kite, that gives us the ability to be able to have some power over what is happening in the mind rather than the mind having power over us, right? So that's what this course is about, and it starts on Thursday. And I want to mention, too, that we have such an amazing privilege and honor to have a teacher who is going to be joining us from India via Skype for a portion of the class. And he is a senior teacher that has been involved in this for many years. And he just finished teaching a course in India with over 400 people. He's teaching another course that has already over 200 people that are signed up. And we have the privilege that he is going to be joining in to share knowledge in this course with us that's coming up on Thursday. So the flyers are here. I want to share my email and my cell phone number with you as well, so you have that and you can reach me. My phone number is on the flyer. My email is not. I'm susan.watts@artofliving.org.
And I left. There's the website is on something that I gave out there. Yeah. So we're going to leave the flyers over on the table there. Susan will be here at the end to talk with, and we'll move on with my life here. So I practice something called Ayurveda. Ayurveda is the science of life or the science of longevity. And I read books. I brought teachers from India, teachers from California, here to Syracuse to actually work with people. And a patient walked in one day, a law student at Syracuse University, and she saw that I sold these Ayurvedic herbs, and she said, "Oh, my fiance has this great teacher, and he's coming to New Paltz. You have to come." And I was like, I could tell by her excitement that this was good. So I drove all the way to New Paltz with a friend of mine, and we showed up at this place, huge hall, could fit hundreds of people, and there were like 15 of us there, and probably 10 people were with him. And I was like, oh, well, maybe this isn't anything. He got up and talked, and there were two things. This guy was either the biggest charlatan I ever met, or he was the real thing. There was absolutely nothing in between. I've never seen someone who just exuded confidence and exuded charisma and knowledge. But then you heard his story, which was very similar to a lot of ours, like mine. He bumped along until he met a teacher that allowed him to grow. And he literally started out by cleaning bathrooms. And his teacher said, if you can't clean the bathroom, how can you clean someone's body? And he learned along that way. His teacher was already in his 80s when he met him, lived into his hundreds. And Dr. Pankaj Naram, again, his website's on there too, was just an amazing being to be around. Number one, when I saw him here, he saw hundreds, maybe between 100 and 200 people a day. Sit with them for a few minutes and literally by touching their pulse, tell them about their life. Again, another way of looking in, of being aware, feeling the pulse of life, looking at the breath, looking at signs of the body, the eyes, the color, the tongue, different skin tone. And then I went to India to visit him, and we saw 400 to 500 people a day. And he was so full of energy, full of excitement, like at the end of 11 hours, looking out the door to see if there's anyone in the hallway that we might have missed. And really touching into humanity, and he charged nothing for his services. He charged for herbs, but nothing to see people. And if he knew people couldn't pay for their herbs, he'd make this little mark. They wouldn't even know he was giving it away to them. They were ready to spend. People would travel from hundreds of miles away, and not necessarily by car or by bus. People would travel to see him. It's an amazing. People would come in, they'd wait 150 at a time. People came in 3 shifts, 150, 150, 150. Usually more would sneak in. And you could be a Westerner that was very rich or someone who was very poor. You got the same time, same energy, except this one Hollywood actor brought his dog. And his dog, he probably spent a half hour with the dog. Loves animals. And he actually made people get off the couch so the dog could sit. It was very, very funny. But he had such a sensitivity in the pulse that was remarkable to tell exactly what was going on in people's bodies within, a few seconds. Just amazing. Doctors came from all over the world to study with him. And again, the breath was so important to him. He'd teach people to do these, and you can go on his website. It's all on there. I'm not going to teach it right here. But simple movement exercises with the breath. Simple, what he called marma chakista, the marma points. Simple places to touch the body. All these little tubes on his website to show. To enhance the body. We have within us the greatest pharmacy in the world. But it gives the exact amount we need. Just to move my hand like this, hundreds of muscles change position as I unbalance myself. Just like this. Hundreds of muscles move at the exact right time. We eat food, right? We eat broccoli and salad and all this, and we eat French fries and hamburgers and chicken McNuggets, and our body makes eye cells and hair cells out of either one of them. We have this amazing organism, but again, we need to sometimes go to the simplest things, drinking water, moving the body, and the breath, something we never pay attention to until we have a cough or a cold. And we really don't pay attention to it then. But until it really is compromised. I'm saying, well, why wait? Why wait for that? Why wait until you walk up the stairs and you can't catch your breath to work on it? You can work on it sitting in one place and then suddenly be able to walk up those stairs without that effort of life. So, an amazing experience. Now, the fortune of meeting him, and I always joke about that. So, remember I told you the fiancé walked into the office? I met the guy who manages him, and if there was like 1 or 2 people I couldn't stand in my life, he was such a challenge to me. I had to teach for him and travel with him, but sometimes you have to look through that at the real person. He was a beautiful being, but he didn't know how to manage businesses. But he brought this person, which was a gift. Now, Dr. Pankaj Naram introduced me to my spiritual teacher, Saima Lakshmi Devi. So you never know when you meet people who they're going to introduce you to, who are going to kind of put you on that next path to life. And what Saima really taught me is really how to really serve people, how to really be there for people. It's been 10 years of just learning how to just give and to be and to love. There's just some incredible videos and talks and just energetic work she does, but she's not like an easy teacher. It's not like, oh, I love you, I care for you. She's a tough cookie, and we need that in our lives sometimes. And some of us seek out comfort in what we learn and what we do in life and our relationships. But sometimes it's good to go for it, to challenge yourself, to push past those places that maybe we're holding our breath and to breathe through it. And I've gone through many experiences where I went to India one time, and it was 5 days we were building this place for some very poor people. We rebuilt this temple there. And we just kept working and working and working, and it was like amazing, the energy to serve others. And that's what we really learned. And one thing that Saima has brought the joy to, especially in Syracuse here, is we do a lot of chanting. Now, again, remember I talked about sometimes we need to give up being right. We're gonna chant here, but we're not gonna chant to somebody. We're gonna chant from inside of us out. And I'm gonna play some music. It's a simple word, ma. It's the first sound that we make. And what we're going to do at the end of the workshop, and then continuing an hour after, my good friend Mark Nanny, who just came in with his big Santa Claus beard. I haven't seen your Santa Claus beard yet. It's not white at all. It's just Santa Clausy. And he's going to do some chanting. So after the workshop ends around 3 o'clock, we have some cake. It's not organic. It's not gluten-free. It's full of sugar. But if people want some cake, and then, Natur-Tyme has all drinks and stuff like that you can buy. But we're going to celebrate by chanting after. So you're welcome to stay. More people will join us. And Mark's going to play live here today. And it's been really great. We're going to just use our breath and use our voices. And I'll attempt to lower the volume a little, because I know that was a little loud. And again, hope this works. So just listen. That's fine. Good. A little lower. Hmm. So that's the experience of chanting. It's all different kinds of chanting. When we sing in church, when we sing in temple, when we just sing out to our favorite song, it works this breath in a much freer way. And that's why how quiet our minds are when we sometimes chant a simple syllable or a sound. The latest thing that has brought me in my path is something called landmark education, which was developed by a man named Werner Erhard. How many people have ever taken the landmark forum? Yeah, a few people here. It's something that's been around since the early 70s. I had probably been told about it 100 times, never ever actually heard it. And then my teacher, Saima, said, "Oh, we should take this course." And I took the course, and in the first 15 minutes, this course called the Landmark Forum, it just reminded me of the fullness of my life. They use this word enroll. And what enroll is just what we did with chanting, just what we did with breathing. We give of ourselves fully and authentically, and it reminds people of their fullness and their being of authenticness. It's our state of being, and that's what our breath does the most powerfully. But we have all these things in our life that get in the way. Like I mentioned before, that thing about being right. Right? People would much rather be right than be many things in their lives. Things happen to us. So in my experience at this course, there was a woman who came up, and when she was a child, she was about 7 years old, and something very traumatic happened, which she didn't really remember what that was, but she remembers crying. She was hysterically crying, and her father came over to her, and then her father said, "I'll be back in a second." And all she remembered her entire life, she was in her, I think her 40s when she was talking, was that her father left her, abandoned her. There's actually a fire in the kitchen, and he went and he quickly put it out and came right back to her. But it so traumatized her, and she convinced herself her whole life that men leave her, people abandon her. And then through this course, she let go of that. And her father was actually there with her. He was telling the other side of the story, that he came right back to her and consoled her. And neither of them could remember why she was upset. Now, 7-year-olds can get upset at a lot of things. So, story after story of people who had these traumas in their life. So, the power of the Landmark Forum is it takes what happened in your life and the meaning that we laid upon it, and it allows you to just separate that. Sometimes for a moment, sometimes for a lifetime. And actually, we can then make different meaning out of it. So like, what do you do when you come to a stoplight and it's red? Stop. Do you know that's an agreement we've all made? There's nothing real about that. Light turns red and we stop. It's because we've all agreed to it. There are so many things in our lives, from our culture, from our religion, from our parents, from our friends, that we've taken as just that's the way it is, and it never changes. And during this course, which goes on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 10 hours each day, and a Tuesday evening, people just go, "Oh my God, I can actually change the meaning of my life." People have these huge pops of transformation. And I've done a lot of work in my life in the last 30 years, like spiritual digging, writing, journaling, fasting, traveling, sweat lodges, walks across the desert, all that kind of stuff. And in one instant, boom, I had another transformation listening to other people's stories. We all have stories, right? We made up in our lives, and it tells us why we're the way we are. They were all made up just like the stoplight. We can change them. You know? How many people here have something they just like to change in their lives? The way they think about someone, the relationships they're having, the health they have. You know? I mean, as amazing as my life is, there are certain things in my, like I've learned not to listen. Like I have a very, and I know a lot of people are going to be shocked, I have an extremely negative mind. And like people would go, huh? But I've learned to just not listen to it. It's like the radio. You know, I can change the channel, I can lower the volume, I can put it on mute. But it's just old programming, you know? It's like how my grandmother thought of that, how my father thought of that, how my mother thought of that. I also have wonderful things about what they thought. But we get to choose that. And on the sheet also I put down, we're giving an introduction to this course in my office. We give them every month to 6 weeks. And it really gives you, again, a taste of something that I had such benefit from, that I'm actually moving forward and becoming a teacher in it, is it's such benefit from it that I like to share it. The nice part about the organization is even people who have been in it for 30 or 40 years, they do it as volunteers because they get so much out of other people's transformation. It's like the funnest party on the planet when you're around people who really don't not change, like not from an apple to an orange, like a change. You maybe come in as a circle, full circle, life is fine, everything's good, but like a lot of people come there with goals, like I'm going to change this about my life. And they end up, instead of like a circle, they end up like a sphere. They end up like multidimensional. Like something just pops. And it happens, they do this course with, you know, children, teens, adults, and somewhere around probably 2 million people have taken the course. But a lot of people never hear about it because they don't advertise. It's all by word of mouth. So this is my word coming out to your ears. So I'm giving this at my office. It's a 3-hour introduction. It's free. You get to bring an issue, and you get to have some transformation just by showing up. And very powerful. And then they give you a chance to look at what the course is all about. And so it's just another part of my life that has really, you know, one thing I've learned in life is if you're not creating your life, life tends to happen to you, right? Whether you like it or not. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. But you know, I put on, like I love what was talked about here. I put it on. Like that's how I create it. I want you to have a birthday party. I created it. I can't stand when people come to me, no one remembered my birthday. I'm like, who did you tell? No, people should just remember. I put it out there. You know, as I said, I've had like an Indian wedding birthday. It's been 3 days of people sending me messages and emails. And why? Because I sent them a message to wish me a happy birthday. You can set life up like that it creates as wonderful. And there are tough times, too. And there are tragedies. And there are all those things. And we can make meaning out of anything, you know? We can have a tragedy, and it can mean the end of our lives. And we do that to ourselves. Or we could have a tragedy, and we could find some silver lining in it, you know, something to move forward. Each of these teachers that I've had in my life have given me something more to give away, you know? And that's, you know, kind of the life. I grew up, I was a big kid, I was heavy, I was slothy, I was always tired, I was dull-minded, and I needed to create something different in my life. I thought to get things, you know, to get more money, to get more things, to get more people, to get more, but no, it was to be more. And that's a big part of the breath, is you get to be different, you get to be who you are, you get to be authentic, you get to create what you want in life, the relationships you want, the people you want around you, you know. I mean, you could be as much as you can. You might not hit the lottery, but if you hit it, you might have a better time with it. So I thank you all for coming and celebrating. The party is going to still go on. Mark's going to play some chants here. And remember, you only get to take this once, this last breath. So you might as well live fully while you're alive, because you only get one in-breath in the beginning and one out-breath at the end. And you can do that by paying attention to the breaths in between. You know, see where you get tight. And if you don't want to be tight, then just breathe. Create it. Create the experience that you want in life. And that's all. So I thank you all for coming, and Mark's going to set up and chant. Thank you. And under that table, if someone could grab, there's some plates there. So if people want cake, I'm going to move the cake over there so Mark can set up over here. And thank you.